So Cynthia McKinney joins us, allthingscynthiamckinney.com. She's got a couple of websites. I'm not sure which one we should give out, but Dr. McKinney, it is great to have you on with us. So Dr. McKinney, thanks for joining us.
The objective is to make Trump so unpalatable that one doesn't have any choice but to cast their vote for Hillary Clinton. And under no circumstance should any thinking voter vote for Hillary Clinton.
All I know is I've never seen the power structure so scared of somebody. What is your view, as somebody that's been inside Congress but also been all over the world, Dr. McKinney, of why the system's so scared of Trump?
Well, you know, his instincts. He said something that caught my attention. Of course, he said a lot of things that caught a lot of attention, right? Okay. However, he started talking about NATO. You and I know that NATO is an anachronism. NATO should have been dismantled, and then
sure, he also wants peace with Russia. I mean, that is such a big positive. That's
right. And so now you've got NATO has become a global army to destabilize other parts of the world in pursuit of the Cold War against Russia and a hot war, it seems, against China.
That's right. We're about to go to break, but you were getting into Hillary Clinton, saying under no circumstances vote for her. Why are you against Hillary Clinton?
I think her record speaks volumes for the kind of president that she would be. And I can't even imagine that we're talking about a president, Hillary Clinton, when we really ought to be talking about who's going to prosecute her for war crimes, torture, crimes against humanity, and crimes against the peace. I'm extremely disappointed with Black voters who are bailing out the Hillary Clinton campaign when she doesn't deserve Black votes.
I want to get Mr. Steele's take on this and his expert analysis, formerly with the Central Intelligence Agency, actually in the field, folks, not just sitting behind a desk, on whether he agrees with Dr. McKinney. This is part of an attempt at beta testing a color revolution in this country.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you, Alex. And I love Dr. McKinney. And most people don't realize she did a brilliant PhD thesis on Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. This is a lady who not only represents the people of color, but she's deeply familiar with Latin America and all the good things that Latinos such as myself represent. So the cat is out, and people are deathly afraid of the angry people represented by Donald Trump and the angry young people represented by Bernie Sanders coming together with veterans, soccer moms, Latinos, and people of color. And frankly, Donald Trump is his own worst enemy. I don't think he was planning to get this far. And so he had a very shallow staff. He ought to have Russ Vernay, Perot's campaign manager, working for him. He ought to have Cynthia McKinney at his side every single day. And of course, I have 7 specific things I wrote about in Counterpunch in August of 2015, but there's nobody on Trump's staff that answers the phone.
Well, I'll say this. You were here on 6, 7, 8 months ago about Trump, and you said he should reach out to the Sanders people then. He is a bit old-fashioned. He's not very tech-savvy, and so there are some issues there.
I agree with you, and I'll tell you something. This is Trump's election to lose. I've just come back from Norway and Denmark, and people are starting to realize not only all of the huge negatives on Hillary Clinton, warmonger, who her email scandal is not about a few secret emails. Her email scandal is about a private foreign policy. Wayne Madsen broke this story and has appeared on your show. Hillary Clinton was selling U.S. foreign policy through the Clinton Foundation to the highest bidder. And that woman should be under indictment for multiple murders as well as crimes against humanity. The idea that Donald Trump might be an outrageous president is exceeded only by the atrocity of Hillary Clinton.
Well, I was about to say, I mean, I saw an RT article where the Russian government says, hey, you think Obama's been bad for Russian relations, wait till Hillary gets in.
That's absolutely right. And I agree with Putin. I mean, he's pointed out that he's only got 3 bases overseas. Donald Trump has some very good advisors. He also has some crazy people. But he has some very good advisors who are starting to point out that the easiest way to reduce the Pentagon budget and make America strong again is to close all of those overseas bases. That's step one. And then have a grand strategy summit. Dr. McKinney and I have talked about this a lot, and I really respect her leadership. The bottom line is that General Bob Scales has pointed out that the infantry is 4% of the force, takes 80% of the casualties, and gets 1% of the budget. Pentagon waste is documented at between 45% in weapons acquisition to 75% in Afghanistan. We need a 450-ship Navy, a long-haul Air Force, and an air mobile Army. The two-party tyranny. I had to run for president to find out that we have 8 parties and that a majority of the Americans no longer consider them part of either of the two-party tyranny. We're out of control. And Donald Trump is the one guy, if he's not assassinated, who has a prospect for actually restoring Article 1 of the Constitution.
Let me raise that, Dr. McKinney. That's a really good point, though. I mean, isn't this the death of the two-party system showing it's a fraud when they just start stealing delegates from Sanders, stealing them from Trump, canceling primaries altogether, and then looking at us with a straight face going, you know, you don't vote. I mean, they really are arrogant. Priebus up there smiling, Dr. McKinney?
Well, I think the fractures that always existed in the U.S. polity have come to the forefront now, so that average ordinary citizens are starting to say, well, what is a super delegate, and why is my vote not counting? So you've got people who now understand that these landmines have been placed inside the system to keep us from having control of the system that we're supposed to control in the first place.
That's right.
So I think it's a darn good thing that that Bernie Sanders has taken it to Hillary so effectively that the Democratic establishment has tried to has had to resort.
That's right. Stay there, doctor. Come right back. Great points. What does your gut tell you about where this world's going? Because are we just waking up and realizing we were kind of in an oligarchy all along? Dr. McKinney?
Well, you know, former President Jimmy Carter said that we were an oligarchy. How many, at least about 2 years ago, he made that announcement. And for some of us who have been observing, so now you've got an awakening of people who really now have gotten inside the system with both Trump and Sanders and have learned how rotten to the core the system has become.
It seems like we should just all stop complying. People inside the government should just stop complying, and this thing would fall very, very quickly.
I believe Donald Trump is being severely underestimated. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Fox News, mostly because I refuse to watch CNN. But when they talk about Trump versus Hillary, they have no idea. What happens if Donald Trump calls for a general strike? What happens if Donald Trump names Cynthia McKinney as his vice president? I think she would be an absolutely phenomenal choice. What happens if the people of color and the Latinos actually get outreach? Now, in the half hour when I'm on with you, I'll go with the 7 things that I came on the show to state. But the bottom line here is that imagine a day not just without Mexicans, but a day without white people and black people. That will rock the nation.
And if we are to save this body and prevent it from becoming a cadaver, we have got to act and act fast. And I agree with you, Alex, that not only resistance, but failure to comply.
I'll start with this. Big mega banks shouldn't be tax exempt, and we shouldn't have to pay for their derivatives, and they shouldn't be able to hold us hostage, threatening to implode the world economy. And Dr. McKinney, we saw this in 2007 and 8. They admit it's much bigger and worse now. They're intending to hold us hostage again, and then probably again in another decade. How do we stop that, or do you agree that that's one of the big threats?
Oh, I absolutely agree that that's a big threat. And, you know, there are some groups that have organized now that have average ordinary folks running for Congress. There's a group that's trying to break the hold of the Democratic Party from the Black vote and get Black voters to think more independently and, of course, more critically. And that's desperately needed. But I can guarantee you that if we fail to come together, that the situation is dire for the United States and for the future of our country. Therefore, that is why I've been invited to go to the GOP convention and the Democratic Party convention on the outside, not on the inside. And the invitation came from people on the left who now get it, that we have got to talk to people on the quote unquote right, because as I've said, the left and the right have come together and need to come together.
And that's why they're trying to cause a faux fight at the grassroots to get everybody at each other's throats. I mean, do you agree with Steele? He's talking about this after you're gone, that they are trying to start a sex war, a race war, light, just to create more fear?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, that I think that's what this rioting at the Trump campaign events is all about. And it's not, and as I say, I don't want to marginalize in any way people who have a legitimate grievance. But those are not the people who are throwing things and beating and bashing in windows and things like that. I absolutely see the possibility of a color revolution coming home in the United States.
Undoubtedly, that's what the globalists are trying. When we come back, I'm going to talk about who the players are. Dr. McKinney, if you're ever coming through Texas or whatever, we'd love to have you in studio. Thank you for your tireless work defending free humanity.
Thank you, Alex. Bye, Robert.
Bye, Cynthia. Love you.
Okay.
She's a great lady. We're going to go to break. David, we're going to break in 30 seconds. What do you want to hit first when we come back?
Oh, I want to outline 7 paths to victory. Trump wasn't expecting to get this far.
So you really think he wasn't expecting to get this far? What was the point of running, just to bring these issues up?
Hey, he's just like Steve Forbes. I mean, exactly. He wanted a little status, and the Republican Party self-destructed, and God bless them, because Donald Trump is our last chance.
What is your worldview of the competing ideas, and what are the 7 key points you keep making to Trump?
Well, I keep trying to get them to Trump, but very candidly, I don't think his campaign staff reads their emails or answers the phone. He has a very shallow staff, and he deeply, desperately needs to fix that. Our first priority should be to keep Trump from being assassinated. And he does that by weaving a truth and reconciliation theme and a total quitclaim for all of the evil that's been done in the past. Just get out of our way. Let us restore integrity to our electoral system. I've published 2 white papers on Amazon: Democracy Riots, We're All Black Now, Deal with It, and Revolution, How Trump Can Win. And they're 99-cent white papers. They're also free online at my website. Now, 7 specific things that Trump can do in less than 1 minute. 1, get Governor Abbott and Mike Levin, the radio show host, to run a virtual constitutional convention in Texas. 2, run an unemployment workshop in New York City that shames the banks and corporations and makes it clear the real unemployment rate is 23%.
You're right. He should lay out how globalism screws people, not just say China's screwing us.
Well, let me point out that under the Clintons, as well as Dick Cheney and now Barack Obama, we have not only put more black people in jail because of Bill Clinton's legislation and the Prison Act, but we have also exported more jobs because of NAFTA and other things that Clinton put in place for Rubin and Wall Street.
Well, Hillary Clinton called black people basically feral animals that need to be made to heal. I don't get why, if you're known racist and your mentor was a grand dragon, why you get to say black people are animals or whatever. I mean, I don't know why she gets to say that.
I'm quite sure she thinks they don't read or watch TV either. Look, that woman is evil. Trump is his own best advisor. Unfortunately, the people around Trump lack imagination, and they lack the ability to think outside the box. So the 7 points that I published in Counterpunch in an article on 14 August 2015, it was called Countercoup, How Donald Trump Can Win. I've updated these points. Now, here's the bottom line. Bernie Sanders is a fraud. Bernie has cut a deal with the devil. He's already conceded to Hillary Clinton. He's already making plans to turn over his mailing list to Hillary Clinton. He's bought and paid for. But Donald Trump has the power to work with the Tea Party representatives in the House and to make the deal with Bernie Sanders and work with Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich to have an electoral reform summit and introduce the Electoral Reform Act. And
again, you said this almost a year ago in August, 9 months ago. It's all coming true now.
Part of the problem is that Trump has not figured out how to unify everybody. For example, Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich are two of my favorite people, along with Dr. McKinney, and they have a very special nonpartisan relationship. If he were to get them and Jesse Ventura and Jill Stein and a few others into an electoral reform summit, he would not only expose the two-party tyranny, and he would also, frankly, shame Bernie Sanders, because point 12 in the Electoral Reform Act is an end to all superdelegates.
Sure, and wouldn't that show that he's a true bona fide populist and that he wants a coalition to bring in all these people and have a big meeting with them on TV?
Trump has integrity. Right now, he lacks imagination among his staff. If he were to force through the Electoral Reform Act, that would allow 20 to 30 seats being vacated on the Hill to be occupied by Constitution, Libertarian, Green, Independent, even working families. The trade-off for the Republicans is they have to open the tent to the Constitution and Libertarians, who really feel like the grand old party has been betrayed. I mean, I'm a Reagan Republican.
Exactly. The Republican leadership says we'd rather have Hillary than let the Libertarians come in and even have a seat. But doesn't this just herald the end of the one-party, two-head monopoly? I mean, I can sense and smell they're on their last legs. I mean, I really think
it does. But let's not waste this election. Let's not waste this election. What we have to do is we have to reach Trump, get him to expand his staff. For instance, Russ Vernay is Ross Perot's campaign manager. Trump should have Russ working on the independents right now as we speak. Trump should already be managing, and here are my other 3 points, a Latino Truth and Reconciliation event in Florida, a national conversation about a fantasy cabinet, the way we do fantasy football. Get the public engaged. A national conversation. Make
it all about the type of government he's, because he has given some details, but yeah, make it all about a big display, a concept deal about the great city we're going to build.
Yes, and Ben and Jerry should be recruited by Trump to run a national conversation on creating a balanced budget. And last but not least, we should eliminate all taxes. We should have an automated payment transaction tax, which is a tiny little tax on every transaction, especially transactions that are not taxed now, such as currency and stock transactions.
Tax the bankers.
Edgar Feige is still alive. He should be an advisor to Trump. Hey, look, we're going crazy. We're going insane as a nation. I'm looking at the suicide rates going up. I'm looking at the actual unemployment rate.
That's my next question. Why do people seem like they're going so crazy?
I think it's called cognitive dissonance. I wrote my first graduate thesis on predicting revolution, and the most popular graphic at phibetaiota.net is the graphic that shows all of the preconditions of revolution that exist in the United States today. The 2 biggest ones are concentration of wealth and the loss of legitimacy of the government.
And every historical graph that you've got on your site, but other ones as well, show we are just ripe for war, disaster. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, but I mean, are we not entering that area?
You're absolutely right. And frankly, Donald Trump, if he were to expand his perception, if he were to expand and take these 7 ideas for action, he's probably our last chance for a non-violent revolution that restores integrity to how we govern the United States of America.
phibetaiota.net is one of his websites. RobertDavidSteele.com is easier to remember. You can get to phibetaiota.net from there. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com.